About 18 months ago, business was going really great, and I thought I'd invest about $20,000 in getting the RED Scarlett-W. Shoots 5K, shoots 120 frames per second in 4K. This thing's a beast of a camera, but it didn't really give me what I thought it would. So in this video, I'm gonna talk about who I think a RED camera is for, some of the things I've learned while owning one for a year and a half and filming with it for a lot of projects, and why I ended up leaving it at home. So let's first dive into some of my frustrations with using RED cameras, stuff I knew about before I bought it, and stuff I didn't really realize was that big of a deal until I tried to use this for a lot of my work. The first thing was definitely the cost. Now, the brain when I bought it, the Scarlett-W, was $9,500 plus $1,000 deposit plus insurance, so around $11,000. And then to kit it out with a $3,000 7-inch touchscreen, $1,000 side handle. You know, I got a lot of stuff. Let me just bring all this stuff up on tape. Another big frustration was how modular this camera is. And now that's a plus side for Hollywood productions because they can put on the exact accessories they need. But for me, being a business owner, the frustration was in how expensive all this stuff was. Side handle, $100, top handle, $500, battery modules, extra batteries, what else? The screen being thousands of dollars. All that stuff is proprietary. And yes, you can use other monitors and things like that, but to get touch screen, to get into the menus, all that stuff, you kind of need to use RED products, RED monitors and handles and that sort of thing. So that adds up. I've invested of my own money, cash, $24,500 in this RED ecosystem. And that's one camera with 4 batteries, no audio. I have to record audio separately. And so it just is expensive. And when I bought this in early 2017, I wanted the higher resolution. I'd been shooting in 1080p for years. I wanted to push myself creatively, visually, and I do feel like this camera has done that, partially because of a 7-inch screen, so I'm really focused on the image, but resolution is another part of that, slow motion is another part of that, but there are so many other options available today that are way less expensive that if you do not need the RED RAW functionality or the high speed slow motion, it's really not worth it. Now, I tried really hard to kit this out as much as possible. Like this screen was really hard to see outside, so I got the screen glare guard here. Doing handheld, it's a pretty heavy camera, so getting this second handle on the side really allowed me to be more mobile, be able to use it a little better. I really tried to make this thing work for me. And I think it was probably somewhere around 6 months ago, I made a list of all the things that I did not like about filming on RED. And I tried to buy things that would make it more usable for me. So this side handle from Small Rig was definitely one of those. What else? More batteries, because I was only getting about an hour of battery life out of a RED Volt XL, and I only had 2. And I could only charge them by having it plugged into the camera with the power cable. So I would literally, on some shoots, only have those 2 batteries. And whenever I wasn't recording, I would plug in the camera, set it over by the wall, make sure a battery was charging or at least not dying. And it was just stressful. I'm so used to Canon C100 batteries just lasting for 2-3 hours and having a bunch of those. But these things are expensive. So I bought 2 more. And I also bought a battery charger, this quad charger here. I bought this one used. And then I had plenty of batteries. But it was like every little thing that I wanted to fix about filming on a RED so that it was easier, like filming on a C100 or a DSLR or some sort of smaller mirrorless camera, added up. It was just more money. More money is like buy more batteries, buy a charger. I still don't have a good audio solution for this to get audio into the RED files that I'm recording. So I've just been doing external the whole time. So that means slapping on an audio recorder onto this if I'm a little more mobile, like on a monopod or something, or if I'm trying to shoot something a little more raw, my audio recorder's sitting on the ground. And it's just, every time I go to film with this, I just get frustrated by it. And that's not a good situation to be in when you're trying to do something artistically creative, is the gear holding you back. And something I really try to preach to people is there are so many cameras out there. All of them are good enough at this point. And you really just need to find the one that works for what you do or want to do. And this one, I left at home a lot. I would go on a shoot that didn't require 4K, 5K resolutions. It just needed to be 1080p. I'd leave this at home, grab both my C100 Mark IIs, take those on the road. Because of all the pieces, I mean, I didn't travel with these have just been sitting in my closet, but this bin of power cables, and I would have to bring my own memory card reader instead of just like a little SD card reader. Every time I went to film with this or went to decide if I was going to bring it to a shoot, I would say only a quarter of the time I actually took it for my paid gigs. And I'm not doing anything really client-wise that requires this camera. It was all extra. Now, if I showed up with this, people were like, wow, I've never seen a RED before. And it's like, because I'm shooting an online course, or I'm shooting a YouTube video for somebody, or an event, or what have you. And it just wasn't necessary. It wasn't a piece of equipment that I really needed. And what it really comes down to is money. Because of how much money I've invested in this, that means I can't use that money for other things. I can't use that to hire more contractors, or to do passion projects, or to travel to more conferences and meet more of my peers, or to network. I can't have multiple cameras that are all the same quality. All of those things are decisions that have held me back business-wise. And creatively, if I don't bring my best camera, I feel like, oh, this could have been better. It could have been better. Versus just being okay with not the best camera, because there's still better REDs than this. There's 3 or 4, 5 tiers above this even for RED. This was, it goes Raven, then Scarlett-W. So this was a step up, but there's Monstro, there's VistaVision, there's Helium, there's all these higher level ones that I still don't even have the best camera, and I'm never going to. So it really comes down to me realizing how much money I'd put into this, $250,000 into this RED ecosystem, that I was not getting that return on my investment. I was not getting booked because I had a RED. And that's more on me than on the camera. I continued to do work that didn't require this, and I didn't start to network myself into DP roles or into other positions where maybe RED would have been wanted by a client or by an agency or something like that. But I don't get work in those ways typically. I almost am always direct to client, and this stuff just doesn't require a camera like this. A few more usability things if you are considering buying into a RED or the RED ecosystem are the autofocus is just not usable. There is a press the record button halfway down and try to get some autofocus, but I mean, this is built for crews. It's built for Hollywood and television, and they don't use autofocus, but I do. I use autofocus all the time on my C100 Mark II or on DSLRs or what have you, because it's just me. I'm filming by myself. I'm lucky if I have 1 or 2 other people there helping with maybe audio or helping to set up lighting and that sort of thing. But a lot of the times it's just me and the client. And so autofocus is helpful in a run and gun situation, whether you're doing wedding or doc or just getting B-roll on the go. Autofocus is helpful. This is just not really usable. There is an edge focus tool that is really, really handy to get critical focus on something, and I really like that, but it's still manual, it's still slower. Another thing is there's no ND filters or some of the other things like XLR inputs that I'm used to on a cinema line camera, something in the Canon C series, the Sony FS series. You just don't have those things unless you buy the modules. The ND filters have to be screwed on, or you're going to have to do a matte box, which makes it even bigger. If you want audio inputs, it's $1,500, $2,000, or $4,000 to get XLR ports in this. So you're really better off just buying a different audio device. So I bought a MixPre 6 from Sound Devices as my audio, which you're listening to through the Rode NTG3 right now. But getting that attached to this, I would have had to maybe attach at the bottom, or then you're getting rails and putting it on here, and it just gets so big. This thing just gets so heavy, so big, so unwieldy. One of the biggest times when this was most frustrating was I was trying to shoot the Tesla Model 3 review with my friend Jason, and I could not physically put this on the dash with the screen facing us because it was so big. And then after we finished filming that review video, we did a comparison between the Model 3 and the Model S, and I used a 1DX Mark II that I had borrowed from Canon. I had paid the borrowing rental fee or whatever to ship it back and forth. And it was just so much easier. And I feel like I'm the kind of person that defaults to the easier thing. Like my senior year of high school, I knew I was already into college, took some easier classes, kind of coasted a little bit, but still got good grades and that sort of thing. But I guess what I'm trying to say is if there's an easier way, I'm the kind of person that's going to try to figure it out. So if a task takes an hour long and I can figure out a way to make it 10 minutes faster, I'm going to spend 9 minutes and 59 seconds figuring out how to do it faster and then do it that faster way. So when it comes to filming, grabbing that C100 Mark II was what I was doing a lot of the time because it was easier. I had 2 of them, so I could do a second angle and match it. I was way more comfortable with that. So I don't even know what the summary of this entire video is or if I'm even close to the end. I just wanted to do kind of a longer form ranty video about this. There are so many great things about RED. Most of the shows and movies that I like the most, things by David Fincher and Mr. Robot and Social Network, and you can talk about all the things that have been shot on RED, but I do not have the crew size of any of those to handle some of the things with this camera. I do really love the files once they're on my computer to manipulate. The color science, the ability to change different settings like ISO in RED RAW, all that stuff is great. If I was a colorist or an editor, I would love RED files because they're so flexible. They're incredibly flexible, but they do take forever to export, which is another thing that slowed me down. So it would take me longer to import because the file sizes are bigger. I would make proxies because my editor's in another state. Exports would just take forever because it's not only at 5K or 4K what you're filming at, but just RED RAW. I could have probably recorded in ProRes would have been the better option, but then you don't get the adjustments of RED RAW. So all this to say, I think that it was probably a mistake to buy this camera for me, which is hard because I don't like to admit that I'm wrong. And I've gone back and forth on whether I should sell this for 6 to 12 months now. And I've kind of just put it off and put it off and put it off, but finally decided I'm going to sell it. I think there's only 120 hours on this thing, which is crazy considering I had it for almost 18 months. And I filmed a lot of stuff in that time frame for clients. It's just I didn't end up grabbing this when I could have just taken an easier camera to use. So I'm going to sell this camera. Tomorrow morning is the plan. Hopefully I don't get ripped off because I've never met this person before, but he seems cool. So we're going to just assume that everything's going to go fine. I don't know what I'm going to replace it with quite yet. I'm probably going to just use the cameras I already have for a while and kind of see where I want to go from there. Right now I have 2 C100 Mark IIs, 2 5D Mark IIIs. We've had those for 6-7 years now. I have an 80D. I always get teased online about how I say the word 80. What else? I have a couple Sony cameras. I have a RX100 Mark IV and I have an RX10 Mark III. Mainly just use the RX10 Mark III for an overhead camera because it shoots 4K and records and records and records for no issue. I have a lot of cameras, and then we have film cameras, and then we have plenty of cameras. We probably still have like 10 cameras. But anyway, if I had to choose right now, I'd probably get a C200. I almost got a C300 Mark II for a long time before I ended up deciding to go with this because I felt like this would push me a little bit more. But the C200 came out the day I unboxed this, which is kind of ironic that that's maybe the camera I'm going to end up getting. That's going to be a third of the cost of what I put into this. But I'm probably going to stick with Canon because of all the Canon glass I have and the other Canon cameras. So I'm always happy with them. Super reliable. Anytime I have an issue getting anything fixed, they're an hour drive away. I drive my lens there, just hand it off, get it back in a day. So probably gonna stick with Canon, but I'm really curious about just not using professional video cameras anymore and just going back smaller, getting more handheld, more maneuverable with maybe the EOS R or whatever the next iteration of that mirrorless line is. Probably gonna just hold out for a little bit, test out the EOS R in my hands because I didn't pre-order it, and go from there. So I honestly think that I've put out less videos with this camera, definitely for YouTube, but for clients as well, because I lock this thing up. It's a lot of money. This is worth more than both my cars because my car is really old, but also because it's a lot of money. And so I keep this thing locked up. And that means anytime I want to film a video, take it out of the locked area, set it all up, attach everything, all the things. Versus before I had this camera, I would leave my cameras out on tripods, not worried about it. You know, I got some stuff stolen in San Francisco a little bit right before I bought this camera. So I think I was just a little bit more careful about my camera equipment and whether or not it would sell or whether or not it would get stolen. And so I probably should have just, I don't know, left this out. I have insurance, just let it get stolen. I can do that now, get the money for it. Nah, I probably won't do that. I'll probably sell it to a person. So yeah, all this stuff, I'm gonna sell it tomorrow. Hopefully the guy shows up. But RED cameras, they're great. I love these. It's sexy. It's cool. I feel like a cool kid when I carry it or I post a photo on the internet. I'm gonna miss this. I actually didn't want to record this video because, first of all, I think I made a mistake. Second of all, I really like this camera. It's cool. I like filming in high resolution and seeing high quality files on my computer and posting in 4K and all of that, but there are more important things. I'm not gonna list them because story is more important, resolution, you know, all that stuff. But I think that it was just an important kind of milestone in my filmmaking career coming up on, I think in 1 week, I will have been in business for 4 full years, which is longer than anything that I've ever done professionally. I was in college for 4 years and my job at Boeing for about 3. I worked with Corbett and Chase at Fizzle for a little over 3.5 years. And I've been running my own video business for 4 years. And so maybe this is just a timing thing of every 4 years or so, I make a big decision and go in a different direction. And I'm not shutting down my video business by any means, but I think that selling this will actually increase my output because I won't be so afraid of breaking it, dropping it, it getting stolen. Going to go back to cheaper cameras, things that are more nimble, leave them out, take them with me more often, film more videos, take more photos, and not try to be a cinematographer in Hollywood or Marquez. Hopefully you learned a little something about the process I went through of deciding to buy this camera, deciding to sell it, and hopefully you don't make the same mistake. Hopefully you don't buy something, gear, equipment, life-wise, anything that you think is going to change your life, first of all, is going to change your business, is going to change how creative you are, how good you are at something. A piece of equipment isn't most likely going to do that. And I think I learned that. I think I've reached peak gear, which is another video I've had the idea of making because I sold a lot of random gear and equipment that I've acquired over the last few years on eBay and Craigslist and things like that. And this is kind of the last fell swoop, the last stroke for now of things that I'm selling. And I feel like kind of lighter, like if you're a minimalist and you get rid of all your stuff, you have more time and energy and freedom to do what you want. I feel like with the less gear I have, the less choices I have of should I use that camera or that camera or that camera or that camera or those lights or those lights or those lights or that mic or this mic or this mic or that stand. I have so much stuff. If I have less of it, it's like, this is what I have, make the video, move on. Then, it's not getting hung up on the gear and equipment. And I think I'm finally starting to practice what I preach, which is that gear doesn't matter, but it does a little bit. And if it's keeping you from making what you want to make or doing what you want to do creatively, professionally, otherwise, then find something else, sell it, get rid of it, return it to the store you just bought it from, and don't be afraid to move on to something that maybe isn't quite as cool or doesn't give you the resolution or the slow motion you want, or doesn't make you land a job because you have a certain camera. Like, those things don't matter. Having more money because you didn't spend it all on your gear and equipment is helpful. And I'm going to sit and think for a little bit about what I do with the $20,000 that I get after selling this camera and all the accessories and stuff that I bought with it. But that might give me the freedom, the couple months runway to do something entirely different with my business, or invest that money into a passion project that then puts me on a different trajectory. So just think about how you're investing your money in your gear and equipment. If you are a video professional, a photo professional, any kind of creative that has to make choices about what physical tools they use to do the work they do. Maybe you don't need all those things that are on your wish list, or, oh, if I just had that lens, or if I just had that camera, or if I just had. No, if you just had those things, you'd be doing exactly what you're doing now, which is wishing and wanting and not doing. So get out there, do stuff, film stuff, take pictures, whatever, sell your gear, sell all of it, minimalist, just do this, art, figure it out. You got it. Okay, that's enough talking. Got to sell the RED tomorrow. Got to print out the contract, the bill of sale. So catch you guys in another video. Cheers.